What's up, everyone? Welcome to the fourth episode of the Bacon on Everything podcast. Again, I'm your host, Blaine Costas. In today's episode, I'm going to try something new out. We're going to do a Q&A episode. Hopefully this goes well, and hopefully this is something that you guys are interested in. Today I'm going to answer a couple of questions, and then at the end of the video, or if you're listening to this audio, hello to you too, you're going to hear me talk about just a topic that I enjoy. Again, just to let you guys in on a little bit and what I've been doing and what I've been recently using to bide my time during this quarantine time. So I hope everybody out there is doing well. I hope you guys are all keeping inside, keeping yourself safe, washing your hands, staying quarantined. It's so important to just make sure that you're keeping yourself safe and that you're keeping your loved ones safe too, as well as all the health heroes that are putting hours and hours and hours on end of work into making sure that there's resources for us to, if we need them, to be taken care of. A quick note, if you hear a weird breathing, it's because this behind my I don't know, I guess it's a backdrop. Yeah, behind my backdrop there's a fireplace, and it's super windy today, the day of recording, and so you can hear through the fireplace some wind. So hopefully that doesn't distract you too much, but hopefully, again, in the next episode, we won't have that issue. So let's get right into it. Let's get right into questions. And these are questions that I've asked for friends to give me. I've asked people at work. I've asked people on social media, like I've said before this. And so let's just get into it right off the bat. Number one, your favorite video games. So my favorite video games are more so new than they are old, which may sound stupid because it did once I said it out loud. But I'm not well versed in older video games, so like the Castlevanias and the Metroidvanias and all those games. Although I've heard great things about them, I'm not well versed enough to say that they're in my top 10 or even that I've played majority of them. So my list comes a little bit newer, but I still think it can hold some weight or hold some water. My number one, or actually, let's not do this in order, because then I feel like that would cause too much confusion or cause too much anger in the comments or in other people who enjoy video games. So anyways, all that rambling aside, first one, not number one, but first one, The Last of Us. The Last of Us is a game that showed me things that I didn't know were possible with video games. Before that, you'll probably see on my list. Before that, there are some games that I've put in my favorite list, and those games were, although they were fun and they were exciting and there was different things to them, such as Rock Band, which is on my list, which is such a good game to have a party with, to have a whole bunch of friends playing and you guys are all enjoying the moments. And Rock Band is something that turned me on to rock music before anything else, really. But there's something about The Last of Us when it comes to the story that they portray. A stupid part of the game that just sticks with me is there's a point in which your companion Ellie, the girl who you were watching and who you, spoilers for 6-year-old game, she is essentially the cure, and your journey is about becoming this father figure to her, and you've lost your daughter, and now you've had this new female that you have to take care of that reminds you a lot of what you think your daughter could have been. A strong woman, independent woman, somebody who is able to make decisions and even at some point in the game take care of you. However, there's this one part that always sticks with me where you get ambushed, and probably should have prefaced with this, but the game is post-apocalyptic. Is that? Yeah, we're gonna go with that. Post-apocalyptic, where it happens after an outbreak, which then turns into zombies, and there's a whole thing surrounding that. But so that's why Ellie is the cure to all of this. She is the one who gets bitten, who doesn't get affected, and now they think, okay, inside of her blood there must be a cure. So anyways, with Ellie, you get ambushed and you get dragged out of your car, and there's a guy on top of you and he's beating you up, and you finally eventually get him off of you, and you see that there's another guy on top of Ellie, and so you run over there, and I swear to you, I didn't know what button to press at this moment, but just in my core, I just needed to get this guy off of Ellie, because that is that was my daughter, or that was somebody that I needed to protect, that I needed to make sure that she was always okay, and I just pressed a button. It just so happened to be the right button. But for a game to get you so well immersed in it that you don't feel like you're holding a controller, you feel like it's you in the game, at the time at least, was so new to me and so different that I didn't see how this was so possible. It was so mind-bending, and I literally sat there for like 2 days straight playing this game. I think I put in 18 hours, I want to say. It's probably more than that, on one of the hardest difficulties. So I was constantly dying, and I just stuck to it, and I was just sitting there and I was playing, and at the end of it, I just took off my headphones, put them down, and just sat there for like an hour, just like contemplating how great of a game that was. And things like that is why I am so passionate about video games. And later on you'll find another question that's related to video games, but things like that, stories like that, moments that you can't get in movies or you can't get in TV shows, because with TV shows it's episodic, so you get this episode and then you gotta wait until next week, and you gotta wait until the week after that, and although there may be more character development, it's kind of hard to stay immersed. And with movies, they don't have as much time as video games or TV shows do, where some video games can go up to 250 hours, or like I've heard people play like Skyrim for 400 hours, which is insane, but it gives you the opportunity to get more involved in this universe and build this universe for yourself, and I think that's something that only video games can do, and that's why they're so important, at least to me. Another one on my list would be Super Smash Bros., which, if you haven't played Super Smash Bros., and even if you're not a big video game person, Super Smash Bros. Is important because it's just like a action museum, if that makes any sense. It's a fighting video game. You fight in this based off of all these Nintendo characters. You can play as anyone from Mario to Donkey Kong to Wario to, unfortunately not Waluigi. You can play as Luigi, you can play as Yoshi, but then you can also play as characters that are owned by Nintendo or their IPs are owned. So you can play as the Duck Hunt dog or people from Fire Emblem. If I'm getting too into the weeds, just look it up. It's pretty much a museum of Nintendo, a playable museum of Nintendo. So you can just play as whatever character you want, and all the characters are fleshed out. And the newest one that's out on the Switch is obviously, or in my opinion, not obviously, sorry, don't kill me, that's the best one, because you have all the characters from the previous games. You have it's called Super Smash Bros. Ultimate for a reason. It has everything. It has every stage. It has every character. It has so much into the game. But again, I think the major pull and drag of this game is the party aspect to it, where you and 4 and now I think 8, up to 8 people can play in the same console. You guys can all pick your favorite Nintendo characters and play and enjoy yourselves and constantly keep going and fight and battle, and it's just an amazing game. If you haven't played Super Smash Bros. Or you haven't seen anybody play Super Smash Bros., you definitely need to check it out. Next one on my list is Spider-Man PS4. I don't think I need to delve really deep into this. My favorite superheroes are Spider-Man, Superman, and Batman. Batman, I think one day we'll get on the topic of that. There'll be another episode. But when it comes to video games, you put any of those 3 characters in it, I'm going to be invested. Spider-Man for PS4, which came out, I want to say last year or 2 years ago, is probably one of the best Spider-Man stories. Although maybe cookie cutter, is one of the best Super Spider-Man stories, which is why, to me, it is one of the best video games that I've ever played, or one of the best video games to me, because at the end of the day, if you tell me a story about something that I love, I'm probably going to love it. And if you give me amazing gameplay and amazing reasons to come back and keep unlocking things and keep being invested in a universe, you got me. I think that's all I need to say. Batman Arkham City, again, another thing. However, when it comes to Arkham City, you have to understand the time in which that game came out. I mean, yes, you had Arkham Asylum before, which was the prequel. However, when it comes to Arkham City, it took everything from the original game and made it better, and at the same time told you a story that was so... I can't even explain it. It's so well done. It's such a well written story and a well executed story in a video game, which is sometimes hard to do. Like I said before, video games can be anywhere from 18 hours to 30 to 200, and with Arkham, I think I want to say about 30 hours in the game probably, but maybe less. But either way, the thing with a lot of video games is when you get these big grandiose worlds and you get the ability to fly off of rooftops and jump around and do so many things, you may get lost in it, and you may get lost in these open worlds. You may, in not the sense of The Last of Us where you feel like you're a part of the world, you sometimes get overwhelmed, and a lot of the time you're stuck there and you tell yourself, like, you know what, I can't finish playing this game, because at the end of the day you get so overwhelmed that you don't know what to do, so you just rather put it down as opposed to just completing it. I'm going to take off my headphones because they just died. That's what scared the crap out of me. If you saw the look in my face, it was a weird noise. But anyways, so Batman Arkham City, you get this game where you get a well-written story, a well-executed story, amazing executed story, and at the end of the day, it's a story about Batman that makes you feel like you are the Batman, or you understand the trials and tribulations that he has to go through, and it made it so humanizing, and it's just such a great, even the series in total. A lot of people don't love Arkham Knight the same way, but I think even Arkham Knight, having the through line of the Joker, spoilers, the Joker is a huge deal in all three movies, and having him sort of give you this villain, the Arkham Knight, oh man. And spoilers alert, Jason Todd, who's one of my favorite comic book characters in the world, because he's a Robin when things go bad for a Robin. That's something that doesn't get touched on a lot, but the story of Jason Todd is one of the best stories I've ever encountered. My next on this list is Rock Band. So I touched on it a little bit, and if you can understand where I came from with Super Smash Bros., Rock Band isn't that far of a rock throw, geez, something's wrong. Anyways, so when it comes to Rock Band, you got this game that has amazing gameplay, and after iterations, they decided to level up the gameplay. So Rock Band 2 and Rock Band 3, you had different drum sets, and you had different guitars, and you had different, which is all fine and dandy. But when it comes to a full package, Rock Band, I think, to me, is the best. You can argue Guitar Hero, but Rock Band is the best. You get a drum set, you get 2 guitars, and you get a microphone. You get on that game, and you play some of the best music I've ever heard in my life. One of the best soundtracks, at least, ever made. And somehow they got this licensing to get these songs that are just absolutely amazing. And I remember spending countless hours playing this game and just getting so immersed in trying to get better every single week. And okay, if I can beat Reptilia on Expert, that means that Enter Sandman isn't such a hard, because it's just an extra key, or it's an extra double key at the same time. And then you go on drums, and everybody wanted to show off and play maps on Expert, which is really hard looking, but once you get the rhythm down and you just do, it's one of the best games ever. But it's such a encompassing game, which I think you can see in my list, is when a game hooks me, if I can spend hours in that game and not feel like I've been spending hours, or not feel like it's giving me a reason to not, or have to make it a chore. When video games become a chore, that's when I'm out. I'm sorry, I understand the grind, I understand working super hard at these video games, but that's not what I play them for, at least most of the time. So that's my list for favorite video games, and I would love for you to just give me in the comments, or send me a DM and let me know like what your list is, if you have a list. And if you don't, if you want some recommendations, hit me up, send me a message, and I'll definitely do that for you. Question number 2 is your favorite movies of all time. So before I actually started all of this, we had a test run with a couple of friends of the top 10 movies. So we had 4 people on a podcast around a table talk about their top 10 movies. And that was a good test run, but I always wanted to get back to the topic of my favorite movies, because I think as crazy as this list may sound to you or to anybody listening to this, right now I think is my time to shine and explain it all. So, number 1, and I'm going to number these because these I'm very, very passionate about. Number 1, Hancock. Now, people are probably either saying one of two things. What the hell is Hancock? Or 2, why the hell would he put Hancock as his number 1? And I'll explain it to you in a couple of just key moments and key pictures of the movie. For one, you get Will Smith as a superhero, and that to me is something that we never have been graced with prior to this movie. Like, we've had Will Smith in iconic roles, but we've never had him be this epic, larger-than-life character. And in Hancock, by the end of the movie, and yes, by the end of the movie, it takes some time, but by the end of the movie, we get that. We get Will Smith understanding the whole, what his responsibility is and what part he plays in society and how big of a picture he needs to be to make sure that things go right. And with Jason Bateman, who, when it comes to movies like this, I think he plays the perfect roles. Unfortunately, not Ozark, in my opinion. But in this movie, he plays the perfect role where he gives Will Smith this character that, although Will Smith is bigger than life, and Will Smith is the whole Superman complex where, well, he can't get killed, and he's too strong, and there's no... But having Jason Bateman kind of counteract him by being this weaker man, but being so connected to his human side, and be able to try to pull Hancock back out and bring out his human side and say, hey, like you care for me and you care for my family, and you just need to extend that. And the story that it creates based off of Hancock and his relationships is just one of... And I'm going to do another episode on just Hancock because I could talk for hours about it. But seeing Will Smith be a human superhero, I think, is something that we may take for granted in this film. You get this great complex between him and Charlize Theron, where she and him are destined to be together, and you get this little bit of backstory lore that tells you, like, when they get together, they become weaker, and some civilizations have called them gods, and some civilizations have called them angels, but whatever they are, for all they know about each other is that when they get closer together and they start being together, then they become weaker. And how the last time that this happened, Will Smith was hurt so badly that he can't remember anything, and he has this moment where he's talking to Jason Bateman, and I think it's at their dinner table, but it could be somewhere else, but I think it's at their dinner table in front of Charlize Theron, who knows all of this, who has all this backstory in her head, and she remembers everything, and he just breaks down and has this moment where he's so human, and he just says, like, I don't know what kind of horrible man I must have been, but, like, for nobody to want me, like, for me to wake up and there was nobody there for me, like, that reminds me so much of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Like, man, why doesn't he want me, man? And he's hugging Uncle Phil, and he has that moment, and we have that moment in a movie with epic proportions and epic things to come from this movie, and it's just one of those moments that you can't, if you see that scene and you understand that part of the movie, and you take everything as a big picture and you wrap it all around, you have this moment where you're like, damn, like, this is what it means to be a human and be a superhero, and to understand that even though he is a jackass at the beginning of the movie, the only reason why he's a jackass is because of all the things that he's been through, and how lonely he's felt and how hard it was for him, and then at the end of the movie you get the reverse of it, where he knows what he has to do and that he needs to be alone. And thankfully they never made a sequel where he has like a love interest and blah blah blah, but it's like he went off on his own. He let Jason Bateman have his family, and he was protecting him, and he cared for him so much, and he put the emblem of his charity on the moon, which is humongous. Like, if you haven't watched Hancock, you need to go and watch it. Number 2 on my list is Tron. Now, when you think like, oh, that's an old movie, like, no, we're talking Tron Legacy, the 2000, I want to say 8, maybe 10 version of the movie. And to be honest with you, there's not much explaining to this movie that I can do. It's one of those movies that you get involved in. Again, it's all about this universe building. You get enwrapped in this movie that was quick, and it wasn't jaded, and it had moments of the last movie, of the original movie, and it told you stories, and it was connected to that. But you had a story about a new character who has been looking for his dad this whole time and finds out that his dad has been trapped in this world. And you get my dream bike, the Ducati Monster Sportster or whatever. Either way, amazing bike, amazing movie. It's a story of a kid who is willing to risk it all to be the hero that he didn't even know that he needed to be. I think you're going to find a lot of the time when it comes to stories where you have a character who either becomes the superhero that they're supposed to be or fails and works their way up to it, 99% of the time, I'm going to love it. Avengers Infinity War is my number 3. And I don't think that needs to be explained anymore. I mean, I did a whole episode on Marvel movies, so in case you missed that, just go back and hit episode 1. Or I don't have it on YouTube, but it's on Spotify, it's on Google Podcasts, it's on all your podcast services. So go back and listen to episode 1 and let me know what you think, for sure. But just a quick tangent on this is Infinity War gave us that movie that we've been building up to for so long. And the other day I was talking to my girlfriend, and we were talking about movies with her parents and everything, and I was just thinking to myself, like, in prior generations, like the 80s and the 70s and 60s, like, they had great movies, like amazing movies. However, I think a grand, like, understatement of the situation that we're in is that for the last 15 to 20 years, however long the Marvel slate MCU has been, we've had one of the cleanest, most well put together runs of anything, let alone a superhero run, where you get told all these movies over the last 15 to 20 years about superheroes that nobody cared about, that nobody knew about for the most part. Like, yeah, you can tell me, oh yeah, I knew who Iron Man was, a lot of people did, but if anybody tries to tell me that they knew who the Guardians of the Galaxy are, you're a liar, for one, and for two, you're a schemer. So the thing is like, you get this grand this grand slate of movies, and it all starts with the Iron Man, and it's all leading up to Avengers Infinity War. And at the time, I didn't know that there was going to be a sequel. I don't know if that was known knowledge. I don't know if everybody knew that Endgame was a thing, but at the time, before I watched Infinity War, I was like, oh, this is what we've all been leading up to. And bookend at the end of the movie, when everybody gets dusted and you have that moment of heartbreaking cliffhanger, I was like, no, there's no way that could be the end. Like, that can't be the end. And I was so fixed with, like, that there's no way that can be the end. No, there needs to be more. But the fact that a movie made me feel that way after just having, like, 20 years or whatever of other movies, and to be left with such a hankering for more, that in itself is understated. And I don't think that that's something that we see or have ever seen in history or will ever see when it comes to something with such a grand slate, and then at the end of it being like, oh no, but there's no way that that's the end. Whew, my number four. This one's gonna get me a lot of hate, but Lion King 2 is, to me, and here's just my quick elevator pitch on why, because I'm gonna get the hate, but Lion King 2 is not only better than Lion King 1 musically, but also a greater story. Now, with that being said, I don't think it's gonna resonate with a lot of people, the story. However, what you need to understand is that Lion King 1 is just a retelling of Hamlet. We already have that. You can go read the Shakespearean book, you can go reenact the play, you can go do whatever, it already exists. So Lion King was just a retelling, not even a retelling, just a reskinning of, you just take Hamlet, you throw in some lion cubs, some good music, and you got yourself the Lion King. That's it. That's all it takes. Now Lion King 2, the opening of Lion King 2, I think, is the best song Disney has ever made, because you get the gist of the first movie, where you have the story of Simba becoming who he is, becoming a king. Sorry, that's not Corona. You have Simba becoming the king, you have Simba becoming a leader, Simba becoming such a huge picture and such a grand epic character. And first thing you start off with is reminding us that it's Mufasa who is this underlying and overarching moment and character and thing that keeps Simba going and keeps the whole circle of life. Like, if you were to tell me that the Lion King happened in the snow globe, I would believe you. If it was the end all be all was Mufasa and it just being this wrapped up story in here, there was no outstanding circumstances, there was nothing outside of Pride Rock. Mufasa, when they say he lives in you, it's because he, I don't know, created the snow globe, or he is the god of that. Whatever. You tell me that story, I'm believing you. I'm giving you money to write the third movie, which I think already exists, but I'm giving you money and I'm saying, you know what? You got it. You understand what The Lion King is. The Lion King is about Mufasa and how he has shaped the world in which they live. And you start off the movie with that? Like, you start off the movie with that banger? You got me. I'm already in. My number 5 on this list is going to be King Arthur. Now, I don't know if King Arthur is on my list because of Charlie Hunnam and who he means to me, or what he means to me, I guess. Yeah, what he means to me, because I love Sons of Anarchy. That is probably one of my favorite TV shows. And you get this character that is legitimately Jax Teller just in medieval times. And if you don't know what Sons of Anarchy is, go watch Sons of Anarchy. If you haven't watched Sons of Anarchy, go watch Sons of Anarchy. If you haven't watched King Arthur after watching Sons of Anarchy, go watch Sons of Anarchy, then go watch King Arthur, because I'm telling you, when it comes down to it, these two are one and the same. And if you keep telling me Sons of Anarchy stories, I'm going to keep listening, I'm going to keep watching, I'm going to keep consuming, because that's all I need. It's just that character, that world, repeatedly, just over and over and over and over and over again, and I'm down. So you get King Arthur, which is based in the medieval times, but you get King Arthur. I don't know what Arthur's first, I guess his last name is Arthur, whatever. So you get Arthur, and essentially he's Jax Teller. He's not the Arthur that we believe from the old stories of wayward times, where he took the sword out of this rock and Merlin and blah 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 and all this stuff. It's none of that. You don't get any of that. What you do get, though, is you get the story of Arthur, who all he wants to do is pretty much live his own life. He just wants to do his thing. He wants to do his thing on the side. He wants to make his money. But he gets tangled into a situation with the king, and gets tangled into a situation with his past, and he didn't even know about his past. I'm telling you, just go watch the movie. I promise to you, you will not be disappointed. So the third question on my Q&A right here, and if you don't know, I got it all written down over here. That was upside down so that you guys can read. That was the only reason why I did that. So, number 3, am I a dog or a cat person? Now, if you asked me 4 years ago, I'd probably say a dog person without a question. Nowadays, see, this is the thing that you have to understand about dogs and cats, right? I love both. I think I'm both. However, right now, in the situation that I'm in, I believe I'm a cat person. Why do I say that? Because having a dog is a lot of responsibility, and it's a lot of time. So when you're at home and you want to watch a movie and the dog needs to go pee, you got one of two options. Either the dog goes pee on your couch, or you take that dog out for a walk at whatever time it is, whatever ungodly hour this dog decided that, you know what, I've had too much water in my bladder for the last 3 hours, but I'm going to wait until it's an inopportune time to take you out. So, and although dogs are great and playing with dogs is amazing, it's such a responsibility. And I'm being dead honest when I say I'm too selfish to have a dog. I like to go on trips. I like to go and spend weekends at wherever and not have to worry about coming home, or not have to worry about what am I going to do for dog sitting. And with cats, it's so much easier. With a cat, you can feed it. If you feed it just dry food, you can literally get an automatic feeder that just keeps feeding this cat until it gets nice and plump. And then you get the litter box. You can get yourself a self-cleaning litter box. You can get yourself a litter box that, hey, you know what, I put in new litter before we left, and we got ourselves 3 days before I need to switch that litter out. Or asking somebody to take care of a cat is way easier than asking them to take care of a dog, because dogs are a hassle. Now that being said, when I settle down in like my own home and being like I have a situation that is stable and I'm not renting or living with roommates or even whatever, if I have a house that I can let the dog out in the back, that I can go for walks with the dog, that I can do what I want to do with the dog, that's when I'll get a dog. And I believe I'll definitely get a dog at some point in the next couple years. But having a dog is such a commitment, and I've seen it when the dog isn't the main priority of people, and sometimes the only person that pays for that, or the only thing that pays for that, is the dog, and that's not fair to a dog. And then you gotta factor in like dogs' personalities, and most cats just like to sleep. They say cats sleep like 21 hours a day. 21 hours a day a cat sleeps. So if you play with it for a couple of hours and then it just goes about its own business and it finds a dark corner to sleep in, or it finds the top of a couch to pass out on, by all means. But with dogs need to be in and around your lap and in your face and all over the place, and it's just at a certain point in your life you're more ready for that than you are at other parts of your life. So I'd say right now I'm a cat person, and I will eventually get a dog, and I have been a dog person and a cat person my whole life. I've had both animals my whole life. I've had both animals my whole life. There you go. And I can't wait to get a dog, but at the time I'm not ready personally. Number 4 is your favorite sports team / sport. So number 1, obviously the Raptors. You can't be a Canadian, or at least you can't be somebody who grew up in the GTA without being a Raptor fan. You had like hand-me-down Raptor gear, or some ugly purple and red shorts that you didn't understand why the colors were the way they were. But also with Canada being such a mixing pot, it's just such a opportunity to hop in on a fan base that's so welcoming and such a big deal. Like, yes, now don't get me wrong, you're probably gonna misconstrue this, or it's gonna come out of context, but yes, us winning the championship is the biggest thing to ever happen in Canadian sports. Period. End of sentence. Book closed. However, the passion behind the Raptors prior to that hasn't spiked exponentially. The passion behind the Raptors has always been what it is, or at least it has been for a long time. You go back to the era of like TJ Ford and Jose Calderon fighting for the point guard position, or you go back to after Vince Carter left and we were rebuilding and we didn't understand what was going on, and we just had this undying passion to be better. And maybe that's because we're the only Canadian team, and maybe that creates this environment of we need to be better and we need to work harder. However, when it comes to Toronto, and it comes to the Raptors, and it comes to us wanting to be better year after year after year after year, and over the last 10 years probably, we have been making those steps, and we have been taking those whatever it takes to get us to the next level. And although we've had like the Chris Bosh leave and we had the DeMar DeRozan trade, like yes, we had Kawhi in that, and that's great, and that worked out for us but when it comes to our fan base, and it comes to the devotion that the whole organization brings to the fan base, those two things have never wavered, and they've always been, hey, we're here to create the best basketball team that we can. And a lot of the time I talk smack about the Leafs, and I'm not going to do that today because I know that I'm going to get, torn apart and whatever. But when it comes to the Leafs, I don't have that same connection that a lot of people do, so I don't investigate a lot into their organization or what they do. And that's why I say to like you guys that I believe that the Toronto Raptors are the biggest Canadian sports team out there right now, and I'm pretty sure Forbes would agree with me, and the net worth of the Raptors would agree with me. But it's one of those situations where you have a team that ate, for lack of a better term, they ate shit for a very, very long time, and they never let it get to their head. They never, the organization didn't ever think to themselves, we're good enough, Let's just stay here and keep reaping the rewards of being the only basketball team in Canada. Because they could have. They could have easily just sat there and said, hey, you know what? We sell out every single game. When the Lakers come, we have lower ticket prices than the Leafs or whatever, and people are willing to pay our ticket prices, and they'll buy us out every single time. The Lakers come if they want to see, at the time, if they want to see Kobe, or if you want to see LeBron, or whoever you want to see, you can see him. Our team doesn't need to be the best. We're just going to be okay with that. But they never did that. They hired the talent and they hired the expertise that they needed to ensure that we continue to make these pushes and go to the Eastern Conference Finals and make it to the playoffs and be one of the best teams record-wise before the end of the season, and then win a championship, which I think was the crescendo of it all that made it perfect for us, where we had everything that we needed at the exact right time. And I think our executive team understood that, and they saw, LeBron's out of the East this year. This may be our only opportunity to get a player like Kawhi Leonard for a year, get him in here, get him healthy, get him on the roster, get him playing hard with these guys, getting him involved and show him what we can do. And that way, hey, we both part our separate ways and we're both at the peaks of our careers, for lack of a better term, but the Raptors have only ways to go up from here. Like, yes, we're the reigning champions. However, people didn't take that as seriously as they should. And I believe even this season, even though it's now been postponed / canceled / suspended or whatever, what you saw in this season from the Raptors, I think, is a great telling sign of what you will see in the future, which is amazing. Just quickly, my favorite sports, the UFC. I love watching MMA, and although I don't watch as much as I should, I do enjoy it it's one of those things where you can understand and dig so much into MMA, and you can dig so much into the UFC and Bellator and all these other fighting championship leagues, but there's so much history there, and there's so much opportunity to learn and to see fighters grow from PFL or Cage Warriors or whatever, and see them grow up into making it to the UFC and becoming champions. And I think that's something that they do so very well. And maybe that's because we had things like The Ultimate Fighter, where you can see a reality TV show about fighters becoming the next big thing. However, I think that's something that the UFC takes and does very, very well, because at the end of the day, like, they could have easily just said, you know what, our fighters are our fighters, go ahead and watch them, enjoy their content, or don't. But the fact that they promote the fighters' personalities and promote the whatever it's called, the grow ops, that's terrible, that's not what I meant. The grassroots of a fighter becoming a fighter, and promote the story of how did this fighter get here, what fights did he have to overcome, what fighters did he fight in the past. Oh, this fighter fought this fighter when he was at his prime and he lost to him, but now they're meeting each other again at both of their primes. And it's such an intricate series and system of making fights and being involved, and getting Dana White to be this huge poster boy for, like, we're badasses, we don't give a damn, we'll do what we need to do to make sure that we put on the best shows. Even recently with the whole Corona Fight Island, like, you had millionaires lead every other league in the world. You had Adam Silver in the NBA, you had Roger Goodell, you had, I don't know, whatever that dude's name is from the NHL. But you had all these leaders and these commissioners say, hey, we're going to end our season here, and that's how it goes. And that's as far as their innovation went. Now, Adam Silver, and to an extent, I don't know anything about Roger Goodell, so I'm not going to speak on him, but Adam Silver is a very innovative commissioner. However, Dana White came out and was like, no, this fight's going to happen, and these fights are going to happen on my private island that I just purchased, and we're going to have it in wherever. We're going to have it in reservoirs, some Native American land in California. We're going to have these fights here, and we're going to do this and make sure that our fighters are all safe and blah, 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 because that's innovation. And although it didn't work out at the end of the day, you get this sense that he understands what it means to abide by the rules, but also make new ones and make sure that he is giving everything he can to his customers. which is why I love buying the pay-per-views, because I am a huge believer in voting with your wallet. And to me, that man deserves my money because, hey, maybe sometimes he doesn't put on the best fights, or maybe he doesn't promote the best fighters. But at the end of the day, this guy's been working his ass off for years to get to where he is, and he's not going to stop today, even though he's one of the biggest sports orchestrated things in the world, one of the biggest sports systems. He doesn't just stop. He doesn't say, that's good enough, let's hand it off to the next guy. He's still there. He's still talking at every single press conference and talking to every single reporter and making sure that his statements and his stories and whatever he needs to say is being said, and is like, hey, I've made some mistakes, my fighters have made some mistakes, a lot of people make mistakes, but at least I'm coming to you honestly. Can everybody else say the same? And sometimes that's not the case. So I just think that's to be applauded. So thank you, Dana White. What would be my dream job, or what job would I want? So a lot of this and what I'm doing is for podcasting is I'm trying to create a portfolio. I'm trying to build my skills on things like Adobe Creative Cloud and Audacity and recording podcast and learning lighting and things like that in video. And although I'm shooting this off of my Samsung S10 Plus, and this backdrop was cheap from Amazon, and this whole setup behind me was like $60. I want to get my foot wet, and I want to understand what it means to create podcast and what it means to involve yourself in a media that is young and up and coming. Because at the end of the day, like, my dream job would be to work in games media in some way, shape, or form. So whether that be working for a big company like IGN or Kinda Funny or Rooster Teeth or any of those things, or creating something on my own, I think it's something that I've always thought of as like a dream, and I never really put any work into it. And I just like, yeah, that'd be a cool job to have, get to report on video games and talk about video games, which is super interesting because you get so much into the weeds. You can understand like the dev cycles, and you can understand all the business that goes behind it, and what companies are doing what, and okay, so this company just released this game, and we know that they have a second team out here that's working on something, but what is it? And we haven't heard anything from them. Are we going to hear from them this year? Are we going to hear from them at their investors meeting, or whatever it is? And especially now with so many aspects of the game's environment, like E3 and other gaming events being shut down for COVID-19, and they were kind of already on the fringe of things and on the end. So you had the E3 that closed down because, well, I mean, it didn't make sense for them to even try, because you didn't have Sony there, you didn't have Xbox. Xbox was probably going, I believe, but at the end of the day, you have a dying situation on the edge of the games media, the games focus in general, the games environment. And I think with COVID-19 being the straw that broke the camel's back, now you have this great opportunity to get yourself involved and to get into the system and say, hey, without E3, somebody's going to come out of the woodworks and provide us the updates that we need on video games, provide us the showcasing that, and that creates jobs, and that stimulates the whole economy based on video games. So, long-winded explanation, games media. I have two dreams, actually. One, games media, and two, to interview Kid Cudi at some point, which would be a dream come true. My favorite artist of all time, somebody who I've always looked up to. I've loved his music. I've loved him as a character, and anybody who listens to Kid Cudi, their major statement is Kid Cudi saved my life. And to me, that is 100% true. Like, his music and his way of going about his life, and how he controls himself, and how he lets himself be himself, and he doesn't give a damn what anybody thinks about him. But at the same time, he knows that he has something to offer to the world, and he has something that he believes in, and he takes that and lets that be his, pushing force. That is something that I admire greatly. Him being able to say, hey, I have this story, and I want to be there for the kids. I want to teach the kids, like, it's okay to be depressed, it's okay to be upset, it's okay to be down, but this is how you deal with it. And even if I can't show you how to deal with it, because sometimes he makes mistakes too, he still wants you to know that you're not alone. And I think that's something that we don't get, especially in nowadays with a lot of artists, and we don't get that with a lot of people, because I mean, your persona and who you are on Instagram and who you are on Twitter and who you are in pictures, like that is your marketing ability. Like, you get Drake with all these videos, and I love Drake, but you get all these videos of his new house and how great and grand it is, and it's kind of hard to relate to him. But at the same time, like, you go back and listen to like Take Care, and you can relate to like the sadness of those albums. You can relate to having issues or having problems or having to deal with certain things, and that's something that you get from Kid Cudi on a day-to-day. You get that in his music, on his social media platforms. You see that he's just a guy who loves seeing cool stuff. He loves interacting with cool stuff, and like, he deals with some shit, man, and he still wakes up every morning and puts on his pants and says, you know what, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna show something to these kids. So I think that's something that I truly enjoy. Okay, so we're running a little bit long here, so I might save the next 5 questions for another day. And like I promised you guys that I was going to talk on a topic, and today's topic is going to be Animal Crossing. Now, here's the pitch of Animal Crossing and why that game is so infuriating and so good. Is Animal Crossing is a game in which you create, in the new one, and I've never played an Animal Crossing before this most recent one, where essentially you have a barren island, and you get to this island and you meet this raccoon, and he tells you that he wants to create this island and make it into a grand living space for all to come and live, and he asks for your help in doing so. Now that raccoon's name is Tom Nook, and it's not bad to say that his name rhymes with crook for a reason. That man is a cheater, and that man is a schemer, and I'll get more into that. But essentially what you do in this game is you build your island, and you save up money, and you buy resources, or you farm resources, and you build houses, and you build bridges, and then more people start coming, and then they decide to start opening up their own shops, and you sort of have to create this economy and this environment for everybody to thrive. Now, when I say that Tom Nook is a crook, I mean that this man literally will tell you, like, hey, you know what, Blaine, or whoever's watching this or gonna play this game, I'd love for us to have a bridge. You know, we should definitely build a bridge in this island, and that way we can have more houses. People can have houses on the other side of the lake, because then they can have a bridge that just comes across to the town, and everything works for everybody. You should build a bridge. You should go down, chop down some trees, and then you should build a bridge. And you're like, you know what, Tom Nook, you're a man of few words, but I understand what you're going at. That makes sense. Let me go build that bridge. You build Tom Nook a bridge, right? And then he invites people over, and he says, look at this beautiful bridge I built. And you're like, what? But I built that bridge, and in a matter of fact, I built that bridge with my own 2 hands with none of your help. What are you talking about, Tom Nook? And he just goes off, and he shows these people the new houses that you also built, and he then shows them the new corner stores that they're going to open, that you're going to pay them to buy stuff there, so you're gonna make the economy and stimulate the economy, and Tom Nook's just gonna take all the credit for it, and he's gonna sit there and he's gonna tell you, oh, you know what, you did a good job, let me give you a little treat for what you did. And he gives you, I don't know, a leaf umbrella made of a giant leaf. You get that from Tom Nook, and he's like, thanks for building the 14 billion houses you built out there, Ty from Extreme Makeover, but I'm just gonna give you this umbrella while I go and charge all those people to move in here, and then I'm gonna rebuild my house, and my house is gonna be good. And then you go to Tom Nook and you're like, hey, Tom Nook, you know, I've been thinking that, you know, my house isn't big enough. I need to make my house bigger. I want to have more rooms in my house. I want to show people that it's okay to have a large house. And he's like, you know what? You're right. You should get a bigger house. And it's going to cost you a whole lot. It's going to cost you 6, sometimes 7 times what you paid for your initial house. So if you haven't paid off the loan on your initial house, he won't even let you think about getting a new house. But once you get that new house and you're, I don't know, a couple million in the hole, it just teaches you, like, this man is a crook. And you go and you have, let's put it this way, okay? Tom Nook has 2 kids, Timmy and Tommy, and they open up their own store because you build it for them, and then you go into that store and they try to sell you everything in there. You sell them stuff and they're like, hey, we paid double price for this item today we're gonna pay double price for this OVO water bottle or whatever, double the price. And you're like, oh, sick, so I wonder how much I'm gonna get for that. And they say $4, or even better, sometimes they'll be like $3, and you'll be like, so you're telling me that on a regular day this is $1.50? And they're like, yeah. And you're like, okay, cool. So you come back tomorrow and you go in there and you try to buy one and it's $70, and you're like, okay, you crooks. Listen, don't get me wrong here, okay? Animal Crossing, great game, super addictive. You get in there, you build all these things. I'm going to go play that game right after recording this because at the end of the day, it's an amazing game. All I'm saying is that you need to watch out for Tom Nook, okay? That man is a criminal, that man is a thief, and he just goes out of his way to ruin everything. And if you're not careful with men like that, you're going to get yourself into some danger. I mean, there's a reason why he looks like a burglar with 2 black eyes. He has 2 black eyes. Just 2 black eyes. He's a raccoon. You shouldn't trust raccoons in the first place, but especially when they're telling you things like, oh yeah, for an extra $1 million, you can upgrade your house. Anyways, that's just my opinion on Animal Crossing, and I'll probably do a full episode of an actual, not review, but a full understanding and opinion of what Animal Crossing is. I just thought that would be a great way to end this episode of questions, is just by talking something that I have been involved in and played for the last, I don't know, since all this quarantine started. I think I got this game on March 10th, if that makes sense. Probably not, but I think I got it on March 10th, and I am more invested in this game than I am in anything. Never mind. I hope you guys are all doing well. I hope everybody is safe, and I hope you guys all have a good week. Hopefully you'll be back here next Monday, and if that's the case, go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel, share this video, like, comment, do whatever you can, involve yourself, be engaged. I want to build a community that is engaged and in a community with people that are organically here. Ooh, sorry. I want to build a community with people that enjoy this kind of content. So if there is any kind of content that you want to hear me speak on, or you want me to have some guests on, or to show anything, I would love for you guys to let me know. Send me a DM. And thank you for coming and listening to this episode, and thank you for listening to all the old episodes. And I hope you have a great day. Put bacon on everything, my dudes. And I call everybody dudes, so please don't get offended. Have a good night.